Today we have a really, really close friend, Sanjay Ray Chaudhuri. Known him for 20 years. He's better known as Racy, quite a legend in the media world, in the world of journalism, and one of the few people I know who has constantly reinvented himself repeatedly. So, Racy, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks.
I know a lot of people will be quite excited to hear your story. I'm not sure how many times you have sat in front of a camera, but you've been behind a camera millions and millions of times.
That's right.
So I'm really grateful you have agreed to join us.
Most welcome.
Racy, talk to us a little bit about your early journey and what made you choose journalism and as a career, and then what made you transition into television, which at that time was one of the hottest things going.
See, the answer to that is actually really simple because in college I did English literature, and after you graduate in English literature, there are very few options left to a man, and especially in that day and time. So I had two options before me. One is join a creative as a creative writer in an ad agency, or join journalism. And none of these I was really particular about. At that time, a friend told me that a new mass communication center had just opened. It was in Jamia, and so I said, okay, let's give it a shot. And my parents were very keen that I do a master's after my BA, though I was very keen to just start working. So partly to please my parents, partly to just try something new, partly just because some other friends also got, and I sat for the exam, passed it, and then I got introduced to the world of, camera, sound, editing. It was a good course. I won't say it had the best teachers, but it gave you access to equipment, which is very important. So 2 years I did that, and when I passed out, again, there was no work, because what do you do? Those were days of only Doordarshan. There was no satellite channels, there was nothing.
Yeah.
So I scrounged around, I was doing freelance work, doing documentaries for Doordarshan. So I would write them, direct them, voice them, shoot them, edit them, make $5,000, But somehow it sort of managed to pay the rent. And things went on like this for about a year or two, until 1993, the Great Liberalization, and the Indian skies opened up. It was opened up to satellite television, and that is about the time, by a stroke of luck, that I happened to meet my partner, Raghav Bell, who at that time opened a new studio. So I went to work with him. I said, I just want to work on this new equipment. He said, fine, you get the work, and you can work on the equipment. But what work, right? So that time I went around, I used to go around, we came up with this concept called classified video. So like you have classified ads, we did the same short version thing. So I used to go shop to shop in South Extension, Defense Colony, all the shopkeepers saying $20,000, we'll make an ad for you and we'll put it out on News Track, which was a thing that Raghav was anchoring that time. So 1 year we spent doing that, and then when the satellite thing came, Raghav said that, like, man, let's try and do something. So we pulled in all our savings. I had no savings. Raghav put in his savings, and we made 2 pilots. The one was a show for the BBC. It was a business show, and the other was a lifestyle show called India Show. At that time, every print house, every big guy was trying to get onto the satellite bandwagon because it had just opened. So we were one of among about 100 pilots that these channels must have got. But as luck would have it, they liked ours. So we were the first Indian production company to have a show on BBC and a show on Star Plus.
What was that called?
That was called the India Show. That was called India Business Report. Both these shows ran for, I think, almost about 8 or 10 years. Amazing. Every week.
Amazing.
And that became the sort of the fount, so to say, for a whole lot of other programming. Because then all the channels started looking to us, and they said, okay, TV18, it means there'll be good quality. And then it's called the big problem that all entrepreneurs face. How do you scale and keep up the quality? So for a period of about 5 or 6 years, we grew almost like 2x, 3x every year. We had a sign saying, trespassers will be recruited. So it was a mad churn of people just kind of coming and going. And then we IPO'd in 2000, and that changed the game, of course, once you had some funding. Then we said we become the channel instead of providing stuff to the channel. So, and then after that, it's all history. I mean, we did Viacom 18, we tied up with CNN, CNBC, became one of the biggest networks, and then we sold out later.
So before I come to the next question, I mean, I also did English literature, but not honors. I did it in college, in school, and I was always fascinated with English literature, but I somehow didn't have an opportunity of going down the path you did. Maybe I would have been a billionaire like you. But
please.
But and on another note, you talked of news track. I remember how we used to live in Singapore in those days, and we used to wait for the monthly news track video.
Because that was the only news you had apart from
absolutely. And just to share an interesting story, Singapore used to have very, very tight censorship laws. So when my first video arrived, it was taken to the censor board. And I think it had an ad from ITC or something for cigarettes. I used to work for ITC in those days. And 1 month later, I had to pay $100 for the censorship. And they edited out the cigarette ad.
My God.
So coming back, you said that the rest was history. I want to understand from you, because I know I've spoken to you many times in your journey. You mentioned in passing about the challenges of scaling up. Share with us some of your challenges when you were scaling up, building from a small organization to your IPO. What were some of the challenges you faced?
See, the challenges, as I'm sure you know, Ashutosh, are many. There is the problem of funding, obviously. To scale up, if you have funding from before, then it becomes easier.
Yeah.
If you're going on a sort of, roll by roll, project after project, and scale up, then the process becomes much more slow and difficult. Key thing is recruitment of people, keeping them, setting up processes so that as you grow bigger, you just got to set up more and more processes.
Yeah.
And in a creative field like ours, generally people don't like processes. So the HR guy is the most hated guy in the company.
Correct.
Because nobody likes signing in a register, nobody likes feeding in forms. But as we grew, we just had to take those processes. Inducting new management, that was one of the greatest things we did. I mean, the moment after our IPO, when we could afford top-notch talent, we hired some very, very good managers, so that we could focus more on the vision thing. And these guys were looking after the nitty-gritties.
So when you decided to exit, I know you continued on the board for several years. You still do. You didn't continue?
No.
Okay.
I exited the day Reliance decided to convert the shares.
Okay. No, before Reliance came in, you had sold a large part of your stake and you were wanting to do something different.
Yes, I was.
What made you exit at that stage? I mean, you were right at the
top. I was at the top. I had gotten bored, Ashutosh, actually. It's quite simply that. I'm essentially a man of the field. I've been on shoots, on edit rooms.
Yeah.
That's where most of my life was spent.
Yeah.
That's what gave me the greatest happiness. That was my passion. But after the IPO, suddenly I found myself just sitting in board meetings and strategy meetings and overseas tours. I liked it for a bit, but at a point I said, this is not doing it for me.
That's not for you.
That's not for me. Yeah, that life is not for me.
Okay.
And I'd made whatever money I thought I needed to make, and so then I spoke to my partner. I said, I'm very much there. I'm on the board. I'm everything. But I won't be coming day to day now.
Very interesting. And then after that, you decided, you made a lot of money, and I remember you used to tell me, I'm going to retire. And then what I suddenly see you talking to you is that you started flying to Bombay on a regular basis because you've gotten involved with a new startup called Arré.
Yeah.
And, Arré was something which I didn't understand at that time. Now, when I look at Arré and all the incredible work you're doing, suddenly, again, it comes back to what I started with, saying that you're quite a visionary to be able to select the next billion-dollar idea well before anyone else does. So, tell us a little bit about your Arré journey.
I think you're being too kind, Ashutosh. I don't think I spotted $1 billion. Everyone is doing this now in digital.
Okay. But you started about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, we started 3-4 years ago, and how that happened was actually again by accident. I told you I was wanting to get back into doing work, so I said, let me try making a pilot for a web series.
And you couldn't have been going from shop to shop saying, I need some money and
no.
Right? So you were not at that stage.
I just said, I was seeing some web series coming up. I said, this is a very interesting format. There is nothing like TV. There is no regulation. So let's have fun. So we made a little pilot called The Adventures of Abbas Mastan, which does not have any dialogue. So we made these actors speak in gibberish, and we said we'll subtitle, which means you can subtitle it into any language in the world. Right. So you just cross the barrier of language, and it was a mad idea, which you can only do in digital. And then a friend of mine and I were shopping it around in Bombay, and then I heard that my ex-CEO Sai and our ex-COO Ajay had teamed up with Ronnie Screwwala, and they had started this company Arré. So I went, I said, would you guys be interested in this? I was meeting Sai after 4 or 5 years. We met very warmly. We've always been good friends. So they liked the pilot. They said, come on. And he said, come on, consult with me, RAC4. I said, I'm not working anymore. I'm retired. He said, look, come on. It'll be a great thing. We'll have fun. Just come once a week for 2-3 days. Just come in as a consultant. So it started like that. I came in as a consultant, a great bunch of young people, talented. I love the team. And then about 6-8 months into that consulting job, Ronnie and Sai decided to part ways. So I bought over Ronnie's stake because by then I knew what was going on. I liked the team. I have no illusions. I had no illusions and I have no illusions about how difficult the path is.
Yeah.
Because sure, there's a huge surge of demand for digital content, and that demand is not going to go away anytime soon. But at the same time, there are a lot of people supplying that content also. So to stand out in that crowd, play the game. So we are 3 years old. Generally, startups fail in 5 years. So I think we'll see our 5 years. And then let's see where it goes.
No, I think you're going to create another TV18 out of Arré. I'm sure you will.
I'm
sure one day we will sit and talk again and you'll talk about all the things that you did. But coming back to Arré, what are some of your challenges? I mean, you spoke.
We are now at that critical scaling up phase, Ashutosh. In the first 3 years, what we've managed to do, I think, is build a brand that connects with our target audience, which are the millennials. We are across genres and across formats, which is something we wanted to be as a deliberate strategy, which is actually the only thing that marks us out from any other player. Because we are in text, we are in doodles, we are in audio, we do podcasts, we do fiction, video, we do non-fiction. And now we are doing shows for Netflix, for Amazon, for all the other OTT players. Yeah. So again, same thing, scaling up. So how do you go from a team of just about 15, 20, which we were 2 years ago, to about 50 now, to about 100 in another year or two, which we'll have to. And how do you keep the quality constant?
Yeah.
And how do you hold on to your best talent? And not let them go when there's so much more exciting offers for them outside also. And the funding. I mean, when are you going to raise funds? How much are you going to be able to raise? What valuation? But all these things I leave more to my partners. I'm not that. I'm actually an accidental entrepreneur. I've been very lucky to have partners in my life who understand the business. Raghav did most of the business, the funding, all of that. I was just there as a creative support. And the role is pretty much the same here too. So Sai and Ajay, they look after most of the funding and the business side of it. I'm more as like a mentor to the creative people.
Amazingly modest, I must say.
It's a fact.
The fact that I've known you for so long, you've always been like this. And I sincerely hope, your journey with Arré will of course be fantastic. But I'm looking forward to what after Arré, and that'll come 3, 4, 5 years down the line, I'm sure. So coming to another question, and I love to ask this question to all my guests on this podcast. You had an amazing journey, lots of successes, and like most people, lots of failures. I want you to tell me, what is your biggest learning from your biggest failure?
That's a good question, but I think I know straight off the bat because it's a mistake I'll never ever make again. This happened when we were, I think, about 5-6 years into TV18. We had a cash crunch. Some deal that was supposed to come through didn't come through, and we were liquidity bound, and we had to let go of a fairly large number of people. That is always the most painful thing in the life of any entrepreneur, when you have to let go of people. And in our kind of industry, creative kind of industry, these are people who are not just workers, but they're friends.
Yeah.
They've come, they've slept at your house, you've eaten together, you've gone on holidays together with some of them, because there is no boss employee thing there. It's a much more thing. So while we are letting go, we decided that, man, this is taking too long and it's too painful. So instead of doing the sackings one by one, we decided to call in 3-4 at a time. For us, it was just we were not thinking. It was just a time-saving and a pain-saving device for us. But for the employees, and some of them came back and told me that this was just not done. After you work, you don't give us the courtesy of a one-on-one interview. So that hurts till today. And I'd never do it again. And what have I learned from that? Is that your people are all there is. There is nothing else.
Correct.
Walls, stones, buildings, machines, nothing makes any difference.
Yeah.
It's all about the people.
Correct.
And you got to love and respect your people and take them along with you if you want to build anything great.
Amazing. Yeah, you're right. How important people are to the organization. And, they are your greatest asset. And we keep on talking about, the brand being an asset, which it is, your bricks and mortars being assets, but it's people who ultimately build organizations.
Narayan Murthy had said, my best assets go home at 5 p.m. and they come in at 9 p.m., 9 a.m.
Very true, very true. So one last question, Racy. You've been the quintessential entrepreneur or, someone who's done multiple businesses, and while you spoke about TV18, but TV18 is like the proverbial elephant. The more you felt it, the more bigger you realized it was. I mean, you were in so many different businesses and you were involved in forming lots of new companies and ultimately knitted together into one apex organization. What would your advice be to young entrepreneurs who are starting off their journey?
One is best of luck, man, because it's tough. It's not a walk in the park. It is very, very, very difficult. At the same time, there's nothing as fulfilling and passion-giving as entrepreneurship. So try, aim for the stars, but keep your feet on the ground. Know when to raise money. Know when to quit. It's very important.
Absolutely.
If things are not going well, cut your losses, get out, try something else. And persevere. I mean, you just have to persevere because it's never, there are going to be long, dark nights of the soul, for sure. There's no entrepreneur who's had a steady, even journey in his life. So be prepared for that. Be prepared, know what you're getting into, know it's for the long haul, and then all the best.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Racy, for being with us.
Thank you, Ashutosh.
And wish you all the best for Arré.
Thank you. Thank you.
I watch a lot of your Arré programming, and I think it's fantastic.
You must watch more.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You podcast. Be sure to visit tbcy.in to join the conversation, access show notes, and discover fantastic bonus content. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Simply search for the Brand Called You. Thank you and see you next week.